Welcome, dear viewers, to Couch Warrior TV on YouTube. I am the Couch Warrior, and today we're going to be talking about manufacturing a mid to high level character for the purposes of build testing. This is something that I do frequently for testing out builds of my own, concepts that I want to put together, or creating higher level characters for my 5 Fables story. And more recently, I have started doing this as well for the Tamriel Vault character build videos. In these particular cases, it's necessary that I'm able to test a build for a mid to high level character. So there is a process by which you can create a character that meets the standards of that particular build requirement at either mid or high level, and I thought I'd kind of go through that with you. It can be useful for those of you who want to test a concept before, getting started on a low-level character. Sometimes it's helpful to kind of understand a bit more about whether or not the mechanics of the end game are going to work before you start creating or playing a character at low level. You don't want to have a concept at low level only to find that when you get up to level 30, what you were thinking would work will not work. So this is kind of a useful exercise for doing that. For my purposes, I need to have kind of a play experience with a character build so that I can kind of intelligently talk about the build in our Tamriel Vault build episodes. However, one of the things that we are looking forward to doing here is having other people from the Vault community actually gather footage for us on some of these builds. So this video will also serve as sort of a quick and dirty tutorial on how you can build up a character to test a build, to gather footage, and do all that kind of stuff. So I thought it would be useful to go over this. To start with, you're going to have to be on PC to do this. You're going to have to be using mods, and I highly recommend using Mod Organizer. What I'm going to show you here is how I tackle this, and there are a number of different ways that I imagine you could do this, different workflows you could use. This just happens to be mine. So I'm using, obviously, Mod Organizer. There are a couple of mods that you can add to your load order that will make life easier for you. And the first one that I highly recommend is getting alternate start, live another life. What that allows us to do is pick and choose the area in Skyrim where our character is first going to enter the game. So rather than having to go through that lengthy vanilla intro every time you want to start a new game, this allows you to kind of get a quick and dirty game set up without having to, kind of go through all the cinematics of the dragon attack in Helgen and all that kind of stuff. You can kind of just skip all that and get right down to business. So usually what I will do is I will use alternate start, live another life, and I will select the option that allows me to start as an individual camping in the forest. And what that does is it places you in a small campsite not far from Helgen, and that's the space that I typically use as the staging ground, or where I start setting up the character once I've got them in game. The other thing that I recommend, just because I like the tools that are available, is Race Menu. Race Menu, I think, is, just provides a little bit of, extra options, I guess, when you're kind of fleshing out how you want the character to look. Now, a lot of the builds that I'm testing, obviously, for Tamriel Vault, the idea is to create builds that are doable in vanilla. But I do like to make the characters look striking because I'm, gathering footage. I have more options to make the character's facial features unique, and then I'm using a host of skin retextures and things like that just to kind of make characters look distinctive. So I highly recommend Race Menu. Items that are available to pick the ones that you need specifically for the build is going to be crucial. Big time saver. So those are the things that I would recommend at a minimum. Anything else that you want to add in, I think, is just, gravy. One of the things that I would highly recommend for doing these kinds of build videos, if you're looking for flexibility, I tend to stay away from E and B. What I do is I use a lighting mod. I will use a lighting mod typically in my setup. I'm using enhanced lights and effects. But rather than using an ENB, I'm using Imaginator, and then I'm using Dynavision for depth of field. What that allows me to do is adjust not only the colors and so forth, but the brightness and the contrast of the lighting on the fly in game. So as I'm going in to gather footage, if I'm having a play experience, I may want a very dark dungeon. But if my goal is to really create a nice video where people can see what the character is doing in a dungeon environment, it's nice to be able to throttle up and down the light, the brightness and the contrast, and do that on the fly as needed so that I'm getting quality footage where the viewer can actually see what's happening in detail, despite the fact that the environment itself may be dark. So, and generally what I'm trying to do is mix up my footage, get a nice mix of footage to show this character in both an indoor and an outdoor environment, and then depending on the character itself, maybe multiple combat techniques or styles based on whatever the build emphasizes. So that would be another recommendation. And, these are great mods. This one here, Imaginator, this is made by My Good Eye. You can find that on the Nexus. And then the other one is Dynavision here. It's dynamic depth of field. This allows you to actually just make depth of field adjustments on the fly the same way that Imaginator allows you to throttle up and down brightness and contrast, things like that. So you can kind of create some striking shots if you just want to have, kind of a quick profile shot with a blurred background. It really makes the character sort of pop off the screen, stuff like that. And that's something then that this tool will allow you to change without having to go into INI files or make any adjustments to an ENB, things like that. And I find that, if you're running on higher or ultimate settings, it looks beautiful regardless. Without the ENB, it looks amazing. So just a few suggestions. So I think the next thing that we're going to do is get into game and do some stuff. Now, in this particular example, what I am going to be focusing on is a Tamriel Vault build. So before we get started, what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about the build that I'm going to be focusing on in this example tutorial. This is from the Tamriel Vault. It's called Lady of the Reach, Raven, Lady of the Reach. And this is a build that we're going to do a video on for Tamriel Vault that will be released on Couch Warrior TV and then also in the Character Crusade podcast stream. And you can see this is fairly detailed, right? We've got some background information. We've got some recommendations for major and minor skills and equipment. Now, we've also got a very nice perk spread laid out at both level 25 and at level 50. And it kind of gives us a clue as to the ratio we should use to kind of divide up our attribute points, all this stuff. I mean, it's very detailed. So we are going to be creating a build based on kind of the structure laid out here. And then the objective, of course, would be to play test that so that I can understand how it works, understand the intricacies of the combat style or the different recommendations made, but then to also gather footage so that we can piece together the feature video. So that's really what we're going to focus on today. Now in Mod Organizer, what I've done is I've created a profile I call Tamriel Vault Sandbox. And this profile has basically a mod setup here that is kind of my standard world or environment mod setup. And I use this profile for creating these characters, and then each character is saved with a saved game name that relates to the build. So what I end up with is an archive of save games under this profile for each of the builds that I do a feature on. So let's just fire up the sandbox. Now, as we're doing that, I'm going to move the specs for our build to another screen so that I can reference them. Now, one of the things that you're also going to want to do here is make sure that you have some references available to you. If you've got a dual screen setup, that's ideal. What I've done is I've got a dual screen setup where I am basically able to reference the build, but then also some vital information on the various Skyrim wikis relating to console commands that I'm going to need, things I haven't committed to memory. And so we'll kind of have an opportunity to use that reference as well. So at this point, I'm going to create a new game because this is a new build. And this is going to kick off alternate start and get us to the character creation screen. All right. So, Raven Lady of the Reach. We know it's a female character. And we know that it's Breton. All right. So, now usually what I'll do is kind of flip through the presets, see where I want to start. She's got kind of a nice look, maybe. No. Yeah, I think this is what we're going to go with. This will be our start. So, let's see. Any adjustments we want to make here? We'll go a little bit... I'm going to go a little bit darker skin tone. This, after all, is kind of a forsworn build, presumably spending a lot of time outside. We'll give her a little bit more bulk. I think I'm pretty good with the standards here. I like those eyes better. Yeah, that's good. Brow I'm okay with. Mouth, hair, not cool with the hair. Well, I'm going to adjust the hair color lighter just so I can kind of see what's going on, but I don't know that I'll keep it that way or not. I like that. Kind of a nice utilitarian hairstyle. Easy to manage. And that looks pretty good. Yeah, she's got a nice look. Okay. Expressions. She looks a little arrogant, self-important. That's good, right? Let's gonna use the disgust meter. Makes her look a little bit more imposing. I'm okay with all the colors. She's got something going now, but I'm not too keen on it. I'm not too keen on that either. But I'm going to press F5 and I'm going to save that color. Then I'm going to reject this one. See what this looks like. And F9 to load the color. Nothing too exciting there either. That's kind of interesting. Okay, I'm going to keep that. Let's go to the existing one here. Kind of combine the two colors. Like a little red and white thing going on. That's pretty cool. I like that. Raven Lady. All right, we won't do anything else. The other thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to give her a little bit of a height bump, make her a bit more imposing from the height perspective. All right, now we're going to save this. Now, just so I can keep track of this build, call her Raven Lady. All right. Now we've got a few mods here that are going to kick in, different things that are going to load, so we kind of let this play out. And the mods that are loading now are mods that I've kind of identified as key ones that I want to have in my load order for all of these build videos.
Approach, my child, and choose where your new life shall begin.
What I am going to choose is camping in the woods.
The woods can be so peaceful this time of year.
I like it. It's convenient. It shoots me right into a space with natural light. It just, for me, it's the simplest one. It doesn't put me in a combat situation right away. It doesn't put me with a den of bandits, things like that. So it's just nice and clean. All right, we did it. So here she is, Raven Lady. Okay, so we're ready to start building. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to consult our build options. And I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to drag this back on screen so you can see it. All right, so Forsworn Breton, there's a werewolf here. That may or may not play into the build video. I don't necessarily need footage of her in werewolf form. People know what that looks like, but it is something that'll come up in the build video audio, so we'll probably talk about that and so forth. So I'm not going to worry about that right now. All right, so it is a vanilla build, so we're focusing on, weapons and armor, things that are available in the vanilla game. These are kind of the equipment pieces that are laid out. So we've got Stormcloak Officer's Helmet, Savior's Hide, Gauntlets of the Old God, and Boots of the Old Gods. So let's take a look at this. Back to our game. So the Add Item menu pack, it's right here. If I select this, now it gives me a few things that I want to unpack. What I do is I unpack the Add Item menu search and the Add Item menu. I don't usually bother with these spell options. Now that those are unpacked, I go back and I can see Add Item menu search. I open that up, and I'm just going to type in here Old Gods and hit enter. Now it gives me an option for what I want to do here. In this particular case, I'm going to do an item level search. So what it's going to do is dive into the game and all the mods that I have available, and it's going to pull up anything that matches. If you want to do a plugin search, you could type in, say, the name or part of the partial name of a mod that you might be running, something like that, and it'll pull up matches just among your set of mods. So that gets you to kind of a mod level list as opposed to an item level list. We'll take a look at that later. But I'm going to tell it to do an item search. And here, it's pulling this stuff out. So I've got Boots of the Old Gods we're going to get. And Gauntlets of the Old Gods. So I've got those two. Now, let's take a look again. So we got to get Savior's Hide and Stormcloak Officer's Helmet. Savior's Hide. Search. So I'm just going to put in Savior's. Item level search. Savior's Hide. Now, one of the things that you'll notice here that it doesn't let you do is grab multiple of the same item. So in order to do that, you've got to, use a console search and so that you can actually type in a quantity of the item that you want. In order to accomplish that here, you're just going to have to repeat the process over and over. Okay, so Stormcloak Officer's Helmet. All right, we'll see if anything comes up here. There we go. All right, so we've got that basic armor gear we need. Here, 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 here. Oh, there we go. We're on our way. All right, so you can kind of understand how the process would work here. Now, if you're putting something together that is not build specific, let's say, you're just kind of creating your own thing and you're not following any sort of prescribed list of items, this is where our plugin level search might come in handy. So we've got add item search. This is what we've been using to type our search criteria. You can also do the add item menu. And this is going to show you all the assets that are running in your game. So if I decide that I want to outfit my character with something from Hoth Trooper 44's Armor Compilation, if I select this option here, it will show me only the items that come inside that mod. So I can select this. You can see there's a lot of items in it, so it gives me 2 parts to look at. I can select one of these, and then it gives me a full list, right? And I can go through all of this stuff. And I can pick the things I want and just simply add them. So it's a very, very convenient way to get at the gear that you need to outline a build. So you kind of get the idea of how that piece works, but what about leveling the character? So here are the skills we're after, and we're probably going to go with a level 25 perk spread. So I'm going to click here, level 25. We can see what the recommendations are. This is how the build creator is recommending that we distribute our perk points by level 25. All right. So we can follow that, as well as if we look here, their attribute piece, they're recommending a no investment in magicka and a 3-to-1 investment in health versus stamina. So for every 3 points that we spend in health, we spend 1 point in stamina, and we just kind of continue along that pattern. It looks like in perpetuity for this particular character. So let's go back and kind of get started on this. So we've got one-handed, we've got archery, we've got light armor, we've got sneak, and we've got speech. So in order to advance a character in levels, I have found the safest way to do this is to use the advanced skill option in the console. And that is achieved by typing in ADV skill space, the name of the skill, space, and then a set of what are essentially experience points. The lower in level you are, the fewer experience points it takes in order to acquire a new level. So let's have a look at this. Calling up the console here. So one of the things that we want to get here is one-handed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type ADV skill one-handed, and I'm going to add, say, 1,000 points. 1,000 is a good starting point. Some of these you have to be careful with. Some of these perks will go to insanely high levels with very few skill points. I'm trying to think of... It seems like it's specific to, if I remember correctly, some of the skills that are more like thieving skills, lock picking and pickpocket, stuff like that. You have to be very careful. You could put 1,000 points into that and have it shoot all the way up to, level 75. So you have to kind of be conservative to start with. Generally, I recommend when you get to the point where you're starting to prepare to add levels, that you do a quick save. So if you do have a situation where somehow you end up with a skill that goes up to, level 120, you can kind of backtrack and just add a few less points the next time around. So we're going to add 1,000 points to one-handed. Just hit enter. You can see we've gone up a level. All right. So I'm going to hit the up arrow. I'm going to do it again and again and again. All right. All right. Now, one of the other ones we had was speech. And I think this is actually, it might be speech craft. Yes. Now, if we pull out of that and we take a look at our level setup, okay, you can see it's prompting us for health, stamina, or magicka. We're doing health, 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 that's 3, and then according to the build, 1 stamina. All right, so that gets us up to level 4, and level 5 actually, and we've got 4 perk points to spend. So let's head on over to one-handed. See, one-handed is at level 36. And then let's consult our handy-dandy guide here. So required skill level is 40. So we're quickly approaching that level 40 here. Not all of the builds that I work on are this detailed. This is a very nice perk calculator setup, which is really handy. But we can kind of see where we need to invest here. We've got a couple of levels in Armsman and Dual Flurry and Fighting Stance. Armsman. Do Fighting Stance. Dual Flurry. Okay, we got one more. Okay. All right. And what we need to do is get up to level 40. So we're at 36, so we're going to go back into our console, and we'll just try to finish this one out. Okay, we've increased to level 39. So I'm going to do this again, but I'm going to reduce the number of points I'm adding. Go to 200. Another 200. And there we hit level 40. All right. So that's pretty good. Now if we take a look again. All right. One-handed is level 40. So let's consult our setup. We've got archery. Recommendation is level 50. Speech, we've done some investment already. Recommendation is level 30. So let's have a look at how we're faring with Speechcraft before we get too far down the line. Okay, 22. Our desired level is 30. So we can do a few more there. Okay, so let's go up to Speechcraft. Add another 1,000. Okay, we're up to 23. Okay, up to 24. So here I can kind of get a sense for the pace that we're advancing, so I'm going to bump it up to 2,000. All right. We don't want to overshoot. It's okay to overshoot a little bit, but we don't want to overshoot too much. Our goal is to try to get it as close to the build outline as we can at level 25. There we go. Okay, so now we want to focus on some archery. In the console, the archery skill is not called archery. I believe it's called marksman. Took me a while to figure that out. I'm going to start at 2,000 on this one. Okay, increase to 33. 41. 47. And you can see the pace at which you're gaining levels as you go up slows, so you have to add more experience points each time as you get higher level. All right, so health, 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 stamina, health, health. All right. So, where are we at here? Archery is 52. Recommendation is 50 for archery, so we overshot by a couple levels, but Eagle Eye, Steady Hand, Critical Shot. Okay, let's have a look. So we've got multiple levels in Overdraw, only one level in each of these, plus Power Shot. All right, so we're going to have to gain one more level in Power Shot, but we'll be able to do that as we advance some of these other things. So let's take a look again now. We've got one-handed where it needs to be, archery where it needs to be, speech where it needs to be. Next investment is going to be light armor and then sneak, and both of those need to be at 40. So let's go back into our trusty console. Light armor. And again, we're looking for level 40 on both of these. 31. 36. One more. 39. Okay. Now I'm going to slow it down to 1,000. 41. Okay, we overshot by one level. That's all right. Next is going to be sneak. Now, sneak is one of these that I'm going to dial down from the very start. If I remember correctly, this one seems to advance faster. So I'm adding 500. That gets us to 31. You see that? I mean, I'm adding a significantly less, a quarter of what I was adding to light armor, and we're already at nearly level 40. So this one I'm going to dial back further to 100 points. 33. 35. 36. Okay, we're close. A couple more. There we go. It's right about where we need to be, I guess. All right. Now we can get back up in here and finish our perk spread. So 1 health, then a stamina. Now we're back to our health progression. All right. So under archery, we're going to grab our power shot, which finishes out the archery skills. Now, under light armor, let's consult our recommendation here. We've got a couple levels in Agile Defender and then Custom Fit. right, what was the recommendation for sneak? All right, that's what we're pursuing there. Okay, now you see we're at level 15, right? What that basically means is we've got this recommended set of levels in these kind of things that are considered skills critical to the build, but we can go out then as players and we can add other things to kind of, I think, customize the way that our character operates based on our own play style or our backstory or whatever is going on in our personal role play. So I think what I'm going to do is I rather like the idea of a character having some set of crafting skills. So let's go back to the main build. We'll take a look at the major and minor skill recommendations, see what else is on the list. Let's see. Speech, light armor. Okay. So those really are, we are investing in all the perks that are recommended. So at this point, it's really up to us to figure out if there's anything else that we want to invest in. So I think with this character, I would definitely want to invest in probably some crafting of some sort. And my thought is with this character, maybe more likely alchemy or smithing. So let's take a look at that. Okay. Now I'm going to goose this significantly. We're going to go to 5,000. Smithing moves a little bit slower. A few more. All right. Now we're going to switch over to alchemy. So what I'm doing here is just hitting the up arrow and then hitting the enter key. When I hit the up arrow, it shows me whatever the most recent command was that I entered. And then I hit the enter key to repeat it. So I'm repeating it a few times over. Okay. And we shut down the console and then go take a look at how we're doing here. All right. Health. All right, so level 19. That's good enough for now. Let's kind of see how this fills out. What were we missing? Okay, Agile Defender is complete. And Sneak. Okay. Let's consult our handy-dandy guide here one more time. All right, so we've taken care of one-handed, archery, sneak. Let's see, we've got another base level there. Light armor's taken care of, and speech is taken care of. Is it? No, we've still got to do bribery and allure, right? Okay. But we are still, we've still got 5 more levels that we can acquire. So smithing is up to 58. We've advanced that pretty well. And again, the build outline is really a recommendation. So what they're recommending is that they would like to see you by level 25 at least 40 sneak, for example. We're at 41, so we could advance sneak a little bit more. We could advance one-handed a little bit more. We could work on some of these. if the idea is to have primarily, a stealthy warrior type character, then I think we want to continue to focus on some of these combat skills rather than straying into, some of the magic stuff, which really isn't an emphasis of this build. So in order to be true to the build, I think we're going to continue to invest in these items. So I think what I'd like to do is add a little bit more to one-handed. I'm going to take this down to 2,000. More of those. A little bit more work, I think, on marksman. You see, I'm just kind of being cautious. I don't want to overdo it, so a little bit more into light armor. We're up to 43. All right. And then speechcraft. So if you need to know what these skill names are, I just recommend looking them up on the wiki. Speechcraft is one of those that threw me off. I was putting in speech and getting nothing back. I was putting in archery instead of marksman, getting nothing back. But you can use the wiki for a reference, and that'll help you a lot. All right, I think that is going to be our final pass through the perks. Okay. So we're level 22. All right, and as you can see, if I were to take the time to advance this 2 more levels, we'd be able to get our bribery and allure, and then we would exactly match the perk spread that's listed in the build description. All right, so now the question is, what do we do about things like shouts, for example? Well, shouts are interesting. Gaining a shout is kind of a 2-step process. This particular character, as I'm just kind of breezing over what's here, I don't see a specific requirement or recommendation regarding shouts. This is extensive, however. But just so that we kind of go over all the details, there are frequently going to be character builds that require shouts. I've done several of these now and had at least a couple that require it. So let's take a look at this. Here I'm on the Elder Scrolls Wiki, and this is a reference that basically shows you what all of the various words are and what their form IDs are. So as I said, it's kind of a 2-step process to do this. So if we look at, let's look at something like Fire Breath. It's 20E17. The first thing that you really have to do, and this is how I do it, there may be other ways to do it. The first thing you have to do is teach yourself the word. So we would do player.teach word space. Go back to my list here. 20E17. And if we look at the other words required for Fire Breath, we've got 18 and 19. 20E17. 20E17. Hit enter. Now we've learned that first word. We've acquired the word, but we still have not used a dragon soul to pay for it. So I'm going to get the other 2 words. So I just type in 18, hit the up arrow, change that to 19. Okay, now I've got all 3 words required for the fire breath shout. Okay. Close that out. Now, if we go back to our reference guide here, this kind of shows you exactly what you need to do. So there's a so we got player teach word. After learning the word, you'll need to unlock it in your skills menu using a dragon soul. Alternatively, you can use player.learnword command. So, I mean, there's a couple of different ways to do this. Obviously, you could use a console command to award yourself dragon souls and then just kind of go in through the standard menu and enable whatever words you want to enable through the game itself. Or you can kind of use this player.unlockWord command. So if we do that, player.unlockWord, and here I'm going to unlock this a word at a time. See, it says it's unlocked. Now I'm going to 1-8, 1-9. Okay. Now, if we take a look, we've got fire breath. She's able to do this. Done. All right? So that's basically how it works. Now, there's more than one way, for example, that you can award yourself various spells that you need. But not all spells are created equally. Some of them are more complicated than others. So generally what I do is if I want to acquire a spell, I prefer to just kind of stay on the safe side, right? And I will use my add item menu, do an item level search, right? And I'm just looking for flame. It's going to give me all this stuff with flame. I'm going to switch to book, and I can see all the spell tomes here. I'll grab the ones I want. Like that. Okay. And then I'm just going to come in here and unlock them like I normally would. And it allows me to come here. I can see them all listed here. So that's one good way to do it. The other thing you could do is if you're running a mod like Apocalypse Spell Package, you could actually use the Add Item menu instead. What that would allow you to do is just choose from this list the Apocalypse Spells mod, and then you'd be able to see just the contents of the Apocalypse Spells mod. And in that way, you could kind of filter out any of the vanilla spells you weren't interested in, those kinds of things, right? So that's kind of how it all comes together, folks. So we've created a level 25 Raven Lady build. Now, I haven't done all the weapons and stuff, but I would use the Add Item menu to do that. So we've put her together in a very short period of time, and now she is essentially ready to start playtesting. And we can get a good idea how she works, how she functions. We can work through any combat techniques we want, any other recommendations we want to make or we want to test, and we're ready to start capturing footage and actually getting play experience. I hope this has helped you. It is not very difficult to do this. It just takes a little time, but the more organized you are and the more practice you get, the faster it'll go and the more fun you'll have. Thank you for listening.